The original trailer for Morocco describes it as the most soul-storing love story ever brought to the talking screen. The 1930 classic stars Gary Cooper, Marlene Dietrich, Adolphe Menjou, and is based on the 1927 novel Amy Jolie by Benno Bigny, a French-German screenwriter and novelist. The name Amy Jolie, which is French for beloved and pretty, is meant ironically. Set in the Rif War, it explores a cabaret singer, Amy Jolie, who's fled Paris and ended up on the shores of North Africa to work in a nightclub, arriving at the same time as Legionnaire Tom Brown, played by Gary Cooper, who's travelling with the Foreign Legion. They're both wild, weary characters. Amy Jolie has lost her faith in men, and Tom Brown is addicted to womanizing. Their love story is complicated by a third character, a rich man called Monsieur Le Bessier, played by Adolphe Menjou, who's in love with Amy. When he proposes to her, Amy is torn between the security of a comfortable life married to a millionaire or a heartfelt love for the Legionnaire, and it's this love triangle which is the heart of the film. When the film was being cast, Gary Cooper wasn't the director's first choice to play the Legionnaire. Joseph von Sternberg wanted John Gilbert, who wasn't available. But he felt that Cooper was, in his words, harmless enough not to injure the film. For Sternberg, the most important casting in this film was Marlene Dietrich, his collaborator, and Morocco was a vehicle for establishing her stardom. It was the second collaboration between Sternberg and Dietrich, and this was their first film to come out in America. The collaboration began when he cast her in The Blue Angel, Germany's first feature-length talking film. Before this, Marlene had spent a decade developing as an actress and performer in Weimar, Berlin. She had a wide range of jobs: a showgirl in a chorus line, a legs model, bit parts in the theatre, which gradually became bigger parts. She starred in nearly 20 silent films, which she later denied and pretended she'd never been in, looking very different from the glamorous blonde icon we know today, appearing with dark hair, very raw and unpolished. She liked to frequent gay bars and drag balls, often sporting a tux and a monocle that once belonged to her father, which is a dress which would eventually flavour one of the most iconic scenes in Morocco, which I'm going to talk about more shortly. In 1929, Marlene went for an audition that would change her life. Joseph von Sternberg, a well-respected Austrian-born director, was searching for a female star. He went to the theatre to see Two Neckties, which she was starring in. When he saw her on stage, he was struck by her beauty and a very special quality that appealed to him, a very cool disdain for the farce that she was appearing in, her not giving a damn allure that concealed an icy passion beneath. Many people that he knew were opposed to Dietrich getting the part in Blue Angel, including the male star and his producer Eric Pommer, who protested in rather a misogynistic manner, "Not that whore." But von Sternberg was convinced that she was his star. She would play Lola Lola, the showgirl who performs cabaret at the sleazy club Blue Angel. In Germany, the Blue Angel was a huge success. Even before it was released, Dietrich had a 2-picture deal with Paramount Pictures, who had seen footage for the film and was searching for their equivalent of Greta Garbo. It was Dietrich who provided the inspiration for Morocco. When von Sternberg left Berlin for Hollywood, she gave him a novel, Amy Jolie, to read on the journey. That said, she thought the novel was weak lemonade, and the female character had insufficient depth. So initially she did have doubts about the project, but von Sternberg persuaded her that the adaptation from book to screen would work. The script for Morocco was written by Jules Furthman, a writer who suffered from a gambling habit and had borrowed so much money from Paramount that he had to write scripts to pay off his debt. In the novel, the character of Amy was a prostitute and a drug addict, elements which were erased in the process of adaptation, in favour of a character who was world-weary, but wreathed in beauty and mystery. Sternberg wanted to portray Dietrich with an image of extreme sophistication and of an almost childish simplicity. In the book, the ending was bleaker, for Amy sails off for a new cabaret act in Argentina. Von Sternberg opted for a different ending, which I won't spoil for you. The desire to establish Dietrich as the new Greta Garbo can be seen in the very first scene that she appears. She's on a ship surrounded by nighttime fog, dressed in black. It works in striking contrast to the final scene where Amy is dressed in white in bright sunlight in the desert. Stephen Sternberg argues that the entire first third of the film is devoted to nothing but the creation of a star, that nothing happens for the first half hour that is not dedicated to creating star mystique, declaring that Morocco is not about Amy Jolly at all, but about Marlene Dietrich. She is its content, star and raison d'etre. One of the most iconic on-screen moments in this film is where Dietrich performed one of the first ever female-to-female kisses shown on a Hollywood screen. When Amy meets Tom Brown, she's performing at a nightclub. Monsieur le Bessier is also present, setting up the key love triangle. Dietrich saunters onto the stage in a black tuxedo with a spotless white shirt and bow tie. She looks the epitome of both masculinity and femininity. She croons Quand l'amour meurt, which translates as When Love Dies, a song traditionally at that time sung by a man. Her charisma is dazzling, her voice sultry, and she performs with the classic Dietrich verve that became her trademark, an instant detachment and a cool carefreeness. At first, the audience reaction is hostile, but then Amy approaches a table, steals a flower from one of the women, sniffs it provocatively and plants a kiss on her lips. The audience is won over. Then we see a close-up of Tom Brown, who looks aroused and amused. Amy strolls over and gives him the flower in playful courtship. The scene apparently concludes on a heterosexual note, the female kiss of flirtation on the path to two lovers discovering each other. So how did this kiss get past the Hollywood censors at the time? The film came out pre-Hays Code, which was a set of censorship rules that came into play during the early 1930s, which laid down guidelines for movie producers, ensuring that plots were shaped by moral ideals and represented more conservative values. Some of these codes meant, for example, that adultery couldn't be shown in a positive light, that homosexuality always had to be shown as evil and the homosexual had to be a villain. You also couldn't have interracial relations between the sexes. A clergyman could never be killed. There was this whole range of values that really was about promoting white heterosexual family unit. But this code wasn't really enforced until 1934, hence Morocco could slip through the net. It might also have managed to get past the censors due to its metafictional context. Dietrich was playing a character playing a role, so the theatre gives the kiss several layers of remove. Some viewers today find the scene offensive, feeling that Dietrich's groundbreaking female-to-female kiss is undermined because it's performative, a display to titillate a man. Dietrich was bisexual, but I'd say the scene is more complex than a mere act of performative bisexuality. It's daring on so many levels because it subverted the very traditional gender norms of the time. The flower that Amy gives Tom ends up tucked behind his ear, self-consciously subverting traditional male and female roles, which von Sternberg loved to do in his films. Amy not only seizes the active role the man's, but she forces her male love interest to play the passive female role. It's a scene where Amy has all the power. The kiss was Dietrich's idea. Her daughter claimed that she did it to shock puritanical America. Dietrich once observed that, in America, sex is an obsession. In other parts of the world, it's a fact. Von Sternberg based her costume on the tuxedos he'd seen her wear in Germany back in the Berlin days in the 1920s, when she had frequented drag balls and cabarets in male dress. Her look in the film is influenced and been mimicked by numerous stars over the last century, such as Madonna in her video for Express Herself, where she's dressed up in a tux and a push-up bar and sports a monocle. The plot of Morocco, like many of von Sternberg's films, explores an uneven love affair, a beloved and a lover. In Blue Angel, Dietrich was beloved and destroys the professor who adores her. In Morocco, she's the lover, ensnared in a love triangle, chasing after the womanizing Tom in passionate devotion. And yet this devotion is undermined by the earlier scene in the nightclub, which lingers in the mind, its ambiguity suggesting undercurrents of possibility, as though Amy's devotion to him could easily be diffused should an intriguing woman catch her eye. Marlene Dietrich shared many love affairs with men and women throughout her lifetime. Her female lovers included Mercedes da Costa, her male ones John Wayne, Maurice Chevalier, James Stewart, Cary Grant, Gary Cooper, Frank Sinatra. As Chris Hunt, who made a documentary about her, observed, "It seems she didn't two-time people, she 10-timed them." She referred to her Hollywood female lovers as her sewing circle, whilst her men were her alumni association. She was daring enough to favour male dress when she was out on town or at business meetings declaring, "I am at heart a gentleman." On one occasion in 1933, she caused a scandal in Paris and was nearly arrested by wearing a trouser suit at a time when it was illegal in Paris and France for women to wear trousers. Von Sternberg argued that her bisexuality was a crucial part of her appeal as an actress. He felt that when actresses had lesbian affairs, they exerted a powerful androgynous magnetism through the camera's lens, attracting the unwitting desires of both men and women in the audience as they watched through the dim, smoky air of a movie house. Ruth Burry, writing in Photoplay in 1932, observed that Hollywood had created a new woman, a different type of heroine, mysterious and glamorous, possessed of a subtle combination of feminine and masculine characteristics. Theatre critic Kenneth Tynan observed that Marlene Dietrich has sex but no particular gender. She has the bearing of a man, the characters she plays loves power and wear trousers. Her masculinity appeals to women and her sexuality to men. Von Sternberg was in love with Marlene Dietrich. He said, "I am Miss Dietrich is me." From the moment that she got the part in Blue Angel, Marlene Dietrich reflected that von Sternberg had only one idea in his head: to take me away from the stage and to make a movie actress out of me, to Pygmalionise me. He was a notorious control freak and declared that his actors were marionettes, pieces of colour on my canvas. However, in some respects, whilst Pygmalion breathed life into the female statue he created, in some respects von Sternberg performed the reverse of Marlene. He helped to shape her as the star whose beauty, staged and carefully lit to perfection, was almost statuesque. He would give Marlene precise instructions as to where she should stand, walk, talk, pause. She had to work in total submission to him. But although this has been criticised, she was not just a doll manipulated for his fantasies. Their relationship was collaborative. Each was amused to each other, challenging each other, flinging down artist gauntlets like duelists. Von Sternberg would go on to make 7 films with Dietrich, and each of the characters he created was directly inspired by his infatuation for her, a melding and a blending of fact and fiction, her character and imaginative fantasy. So during the shooting of Morocco, due to their closeness, Dietrich and von Sternberg, though fluent in English, would often annoy Gary Cooper by speaking in German, which gave them a special intimacy. Dietrich was not impressed by Cooper. Reflecting on the shoot in 1991, she said, "Cooper was neither intelligent nor cultured. Just like the other actors, he was chosen for his physique, which after all was more important than his active brain." At the time of filming, however, Dietrich and Cooper, who were both married, had a love affair. Donald Spoto, her biographer, asserts that Cooper became devoted to her and far more ardent to please her and attend her in life than in the story they were filming. Meanwhile, the director simmered in jealousy and took to ignoring Cooper in response. At times, he also punished Marlene. In the final scene, she walked barefoot in the desert. This doesn't give away any spoilers. And she fainted from the heat. As she was lying on a stretcher, she asked if he wanted another close-up and pronounced it close-up, at which point he pointed out her mispronunciation. She turned this into an anecdote which she spread across Hollywood. "He even corrects my English when I don't come out of a fainting spell properly." Morocco was a huge success. It broke box office records and garnered Academy Award nominations for Best Director, Best Actress, Best Art Direction, and Best Cinematography. The New York Times declared, before the film had even opened, "Marlene Dietrich is expected to become a screen star overnight." It did make her name. By the end of 1930, she was one of the most famous movie stars in the world. She became such an icon that she was sometimes referred to herself in the third person, regarding her persona as a lifelong portrait that she added layer upon layer to year after year. She cultivated mystery as part of her allure. It reads her pictures like cigarette smoke from an elegant holder. She summed up her star allure perfectly when she said that each man or woman should be able to find in the actress the thing he or she most desires, and still be left with the promise that they will find something new and exciting every time they see her again. Thank you very much.